before we bring Alan on, I would just like to say a few words about him. And one of the things Alan does is he tries to serve the greater good of humanity by introducing us to the healing and intuitive capabilities of animals. He's written extensively on the subject, and together with his wife Linda, devotes his energy to the Animal Angel Network, which does valuable charitable work in the service of oppressed and challenged animals. At angelanimals.net, you can find heartwarming educational stories, blogs, and articles. And tonight we'll be taking a look at his compelling and poignant book, A Dog Named Leaf. So, Alan, how are you tonight?
Oh, very good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's certainly my pleasure. We're very glad that you can make it. I'm one thing that springs to mind, first of all, is that a lot of ancient religions and religions that are still being practiced today, they they assign different levels to the human soul, and one of those is that we're endowed with an animal soul. What do you think about the animal soul that is in human beings and supposedly connects us to other creatures? What do you have to say about that?
Well, I'd like to share with you just some thoughts that I have on that because I really do believe that, truly soul equals soul. And when it comes down to it, there's something special within each of us and with each animal and within life itself. That's light and sound and beautiful love that just generates from something that, many of us would call spiritual. It could be mystical. It could be something greater. But it's definitely there, and it goes through all life. And when I look at my dog or I look at an animal in nature and they look back at me, there's nothing but that connection. The connection is so deep and the bond is so there. Whether we label it certain things or whether it comes from a religious tradition or not, there is something within each living creature that is, in my mind, godlike, and that's what we're all trying to strive for in some way in our lives.
And we don't have to try too hard, do we? They're so cute.
Well, yes, they are cute, but I've been writing books. My wife and I have been writing books now since 1996. Our first book was called Angel Animals: Exploring the Spiritual Connection with Animals, and over and over and over again, we have 15 books now. We're getting stories from people all over these many years, thousands of stories, and so often we get stories, first-hand accounts when people really do understand the significance of that spiritual connection, that bond. And why this animal? Why now? Why am I having this experience with this one cat, this dog, this bird, this whatever it might be, helping me through this crisis and challenging times in my life, and how I'm helping this animal through what might have been a challenging time in their lives. And often when they realize that it isn't an accident, it isn't just a coincidence, it actually is something at a deeper level, why these two souls were put together, bonded together spiritually to move forward in life together, to learn lessons, spiritual lessons together, and maybe become better, maybe a better dog or a cat through being kinder and gentler with people and not being so fearful or hostile,
Right.
and maybe for the person to be maybe kinder, gentler, more loving. There's a lot of growth when you work together as a team, both animal and person, moving forward in those experiences. And I really believe that in my heart. I really do, from my experience, that aspect of life we often ignore, but it's truly there, that bonding, that spiritual partnership, so to speak, between humans and animals.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, animals, one thing that amazes me about them is they have a supernatural ability to sense things that we humans often cannot. And you'll see, for example, in horses, dogs, cats, they'll right before a storm or an earthquake or tornado, they'll start getting riled up. They can sense this impending disturbance before human beings can. Isn't that? I just find that to be fascinating and very interesting proof of the animal's deep intuition.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. The studies have shown that before a tidal wave or before a storm comes in, the animals, if they're able to, head for the hills, so to speak, head inland. Or if there's a storm approaching, they can feel it inside. They have an intuitive understanding, sort of a feeling, instinctual feeling that there's something about to happen that they need to be aware of and be alert towards. You know, I don't know. Most of us. I'm not. Of course, the people that I'm talking with now are not in that
Right.
category. Most of us are pretty blind to what's going on around us on an intuitive level. We're pretty much just going day to day, trying to do the best we can, taking care of the bills, raising the kids, all the things that we're supposed to do, and we just ignore that aspect of self. Animals are totally into that, and they totally understand on multiple different levels what's going on in their environment, and they can feel and they can know things that we don't know. So we need to pay attention. If we see an agitated dog, or if we see something going on with the birds flying a certain direction, or whatever might be happening in our lives, let's pay attention. If we don't have it, maybe pay attention to those animals around us, and do and make decisions based on that. Sometimes that would be in our best interest.
Absolutely. It's amazing. Like you said, the day-to-day rat race perhaps blunts our own intuition. So it helps to pay attention to your pet because he could be a surrogate for your own psychic ability, your own intuition, and your pet, in fact, can clue you into what's going awry, perhaps.
Oh yes, yeah. That's one reason why we use the phrase "divine messengers of love" or comfort. Are those spiritual qualities that we tend to not pay that much attention to. I look into a dog's eyes, especially these beautiful creatures that we have as our companions and our pets, and I see a lot of spiritual qualities that sometimes we humans tend to ignore within ourselves and don't really build or allowed to display. Unconditional love, empathy, spiritual courage to move forward into areas that they have not moved in before because they're not going to let fear rule their lives. All the things that make you a better human being, you can look at an animal and just see it in spades, and you want to become like that animal in a way because of that beautiful, beautiful soul that is just showing you the way in many ways, just showing you how to get back home to what the true self, and that's truly the spiritual self, that aspect of yourself that you've just buried so deep that you're just not going to get it. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this now, and I really have been hesitant over the period of time, is because of my experience with my dog Leaf and all the things he gave me and all the truths that he helped me understand just from his presence. Even though he came from an abandoned and abusive background when he was dumped at the shelter where we adopted him, he was there for me during much of my experiences that were truly traumatic and something that I going through a time and period in my life where I really did need a friend that was just there 100% with all the unconditional love and support that one would need.
Well, I have to tell you, I also am best friends with the Cocker Spaniel. I hesitate to say that I own him because the question has not been resolved yet, just who owns whom. In a way, he definitely owns me too. And many times in reading A Dog Named Leaf, I found myself getting really choked up. I mean, on several occasions. And I think one of the facets of your relationship with Leaf that really resonated with me was your ability to communicate with him. How did you develop this ability to understand Leaf and for him to understand you? How much time did that take? What was the process of that like?
Well, we adopted him from the shelter, and he looked so cute because he just got his little Cocker Spaniel haircut, and he's about a year old. You know how cute they are when they get their haircuts.
Oh, they're adorable. I love Cocker Spaniels.
I understand earlier that your dog's name is Max, and I could just imagine how adorable after a haircut and just having a good time with that.
Max is 9 years old, and I'll tell you what, he's very spunky, full of energy, and I wonder where he gets it from. I really do. I can imagine Leaf. Leaf is definitely the same way. Reading about his narrative, and understanding a little bit about his story from your book, I found myself really falling in love with Leaf. He's easy to fall in love with.
Oh, he's just adorable, and he's about 9 now, to 8.5, approximately. And we're actually going to send, adoption day is his real birthday because they didn't know how old he was when we adopted him, and we're going to do a little party. How silly as that may sound, we're looking forward to that with some things that dogs enjoy with a little hat.
It definitely doesn't sound silly at all because Leaf, and anyone who reads A Dog Named Leaf, your book, will definitely understand this and see what I'm talking about. But Leaf helped you through a very scary and dangerous part of your life, didn't he?
He did. He did. You know, when we adopted him, I brought him home, and we found out that he really didn't like men. He didn't like to be touched. He was scared of everything. He didn't sleep. He was just a complete wreck. And normally, you know, some people might think, well, why did you keep him? Well, because we told him when we adopted him that he was going to be coming home, and that was going to be it. He was going to stay there, and he's going to be with us. So I worked with him. I took him out in the middle of the night trying to make sure. This is like Minnesota winter, so it was like very, very cold. Taking him
Wow.
out for bathroom breaks at 2 and 4, making sure that he understood where the bathroom was, and then holding him in my arms because he couldn't sleep. He just couldn't be on his dog bed. He couldn't like the dark. He was always howling. He was just a wreck. So at night I would bring him inside and I would put him in my blue comfort chair in my office, and we would recline back, and I would hold him against my heart so he could hear my heart. And he didn't like being held, but then again he began to relax, and he began to realize that he was safe, and he began to sleep. And when he started snoring, I was able to snore. So that was what we were going through for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, he began to build a little bit of trust in me. And I began to build trust in him. And, you know, those evenings and nights when I would do that, and I would comfort him, and I would tell him that he's loved, and this was going to be his home forever, and no matter what, he was safe. I would also do a chant in order to help relieve some of the stress both in me and in him. And it was a chant with the word Hugh, H-U, and I would just go, Hugh, Hugh. And I would sing it to him in a nice long breath, and he would just relax and enjoy it. He would lick my nose, which he didn't like to do. He didn't like men at all at the time, but he began to realize he was safe and he was going to be okay. Well, you know, during this time period, what surprised me is that I started having some really bad dizzy spells. And I was, you know, I thought it was an inner ear infection, but, you know, for those of us who are married, the wives always tell you when to go to the doctor when you have to, so I had to go and get a checkup to make sure everything was all right. Well, I went, and they found that, you know, there was nothing that they could find, so the doctor gave me an appointment with another doctor to get some brain x-rays just to be on the safe side, even though he said this would not have been a symptom for anything other than just maybe just some ear infection that we couldn't find. So I did that, and I went to the office one day thinking everything was fine because the dizzy spells went away, and I got a call from the doctor, and this is, you know, I'm already sleep deprived. Leaf is beginning to grow trust in me. He was beginning to feel like he was home and everything was safe and we were all good. And the doctor on the phone said, Alan, you know, we have some test results back from your x-rays. You have an unruptured brain aneurysm.
Ugh. Scary stuff.
It is. It is. I was always healthy. I was always pretty much a healthy guy, pretty much doing the things I need to do, never feeling like I would ever have to depend on others. And my father was a stroke victim at an early age, so I knew what it was like to have brain damage and have to depend on others and no longer be independent, and that really scared me. I asked him where it was because I didn't really understand it when he first said that, and he said, well, it's in your brain? You know, he had me put my finger on my forehead and says, about an inch deep there, and you're going to have to get it taken care of. So I took down the information, and I thanked him for calling, even though I was still in denial. And I went in the hallway and really had sort of an emotional breakdown. I thought about Leaf and all his howling at night. And his face was in my head, and I was thinking about him and thinking about, I really know what he feels like. I really know what it feels like to be alone and to feel scared and to start howling, just to be telling the universe, why is this happening now?
Now, for those who might not know, an unruptured brain aneurysm is actually sort of, imagine a garden hose that's sort of bowing out in the middle and is about to explode, releasing all the water, except in the brain, that garden hose would be a blood vessel, correct?
Yes, yes.
So this is a mortal type of situation where you're facing the Reaper there, and Leaf was what seems to me is that your experience with your exposure to this mortality seems to strike a parallel with the abuse or the oppression, the adversity that Leaf had to suffer. Would you say that formed sort of a linkage or a bond or a common experience between you two? And would that in fact bring about some of the benefits that Leaf has brought into your life, that linkage of shared adversity?
Exactly right. Shared adversity. He came from an abusive background. He was fearful. He didn't trust people. I came from, and I hate to bring this up because it's such a long time ago, but I did police work in Atlanta for a number of years, 8 years, and I
Wow.
grew. And it was just I mean, I had gotten a journalism degree, and I was going to go into journalism and do writing, and I thought that was going to be my career. And actually, I was going to work at a television station for a while, and then I had a motorcycle accident that made me look like Frankenstein for about 6 months, and I thought I would take advantage of that and become a police officer because people would now pay attention to me. I looked like Frankenstein. So
Makes sense.
I also wanted to do and get more writing material. I thought it would be fascinating. But once I got into police work, I realized how much I really enjoyed helping people. People in domestics and really crisis and challenging situations beyond belief, and in some of the areas that had a lot of drug activity and gang activity. And I really found that my being there made a difference for those people, and I really liked that. So I stuck with it, and I did it. And so I began, though, to become like tarnished by the work because I saw people in a certain way. Either they were victims or they were the perpetrators and the people that always did bad things to other people. So I didn't look at the world like I looked at it with the innocence of someone who didn't see people at their very worst. And even the best people that you saw had ulterior motives. There were all these things going on. So when Leaf and I came together, we sort of like bonded on a level beyond belief because he saw the people the same way I saw them, and we were trying to figure out how can we get out of this and move into a more realistic and more loving view of the life around us and the appreciation of the people around us. So that was how we bonded.
Now, one thing that struck me as interesting was in your book when you were describing how Leaf got sick and you were taking him to the vet. You would talk about the chant CD, and how he liked the chants, the chanting. And my question is, because this show is about how to derive, and I hate to sound opportunistic or exploitative, but the show is about how to derive benefit from your animal, benefit from your pet. And it seems to me as if the chanting that you did with Leaf and that he listened to on the CD, it seems to me as if that sort of synchronized the two of you somehow. Your vibratory rates or your vibes or whatever terminology you want to use. It seems as if you two were synchronizing with each other. And the question I have is, let's say that I'm an average Joe out there in the audience who has a dog, a parakeet, a Lebanese fruit bat, a sperm whale, or whatever as a pet. And if I want to derive some benefit from that pet, I'm going to how do I synchronize myself, my vibratory rate with the pet, so that he or she can help me?
Well, there's several things you can do, and this is really important. For one thing, spend quality time with the pet, not only just in play, but also in just doing the things that you normally would do in your daily life, including taking for walks or just spending quality time if it's an animal that stays indoors, playing and doing the things that the animal would enjoy. But there's also a deeper level, because we are all basically spiritual beings, and I believe that in my heart. We do need and can very much bond and have that animal, that pet, become your spiritual partner in life. And with that, I mean they have your back, so to speak, and you have their back. You're taking care of each other at a lot of different levels. Now, in order for that to happen, you need to look at the animal, first off, as not just a person or an individual in fur, but as an individual that is a spiritual being just like you are. But then you've got to take it a step further. Am I a spiritual being? There's so many people in this world that just sort of are dead to that, even having a conversation of that. Now, there was a recent poll, which I love, a Gallup poll that says over 50% of Americans have said they've had a religious or mystical experience in their lives. So it isn't as bad as it used to be, but people still are hesitant about saying that they are truly a spiritual being, living life and doing the things in life that help them become better, more spiritual, more loving, more courageous, have more empathy for others, giving service. All of that is part of what, in my mind, is our goal in this life, is to become better. Now, Leaf and I, and any animal and any individual, can become more bonded on a spiritual level if you spend quiet time with them. Whether you do a chant like I did with the Hu, H-U, or you do a chant with Om, or if you spend just quiet time, those are those people that enjoy and work with prayer would be a nice time with the animal in a quiet contemplative prayer setting on your chair, just letting the animal be with you and sort of get in tune. Both of you are getting in tune with something that's greater than you, or even something I would like to say more inside of you and inside of the animal, and you're getting in tune together as a spiritual partnership as you're moving through life and getting those experiences. So number one, playtime. Number two, quiet time, and maybe with the chant or with prayer or something that would be something that brings you comfort and a greater understanding of your purpose in life. And of course, the third thing is a lot of quality, whenever you're off work or whether you have some time, a lot of quality time just spending together on the couch or walking or anything else that just being together. It doesn't have to be play. It doesn't have to be quiet time. It can just be, spending some time together, getting to know each other on every aspect of each other and being observant. That's one thing about Leaf. I took a lot of notes through this whole thing, and I always was observing his actions and his observations and his doggy viewpoint of the world. And it just made me happy to see that there are other viewpoints and how I could benefit by just paying attention and looking at things the way he might look at them.
Well, I'm sure you've realized, I've observed also that in this modern era, pets often serve a materialistic purpose where they aggrandize the master. I refer specifically to the celebrities who have these little genetically modified toy dogs, etc. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So in that sense, let's assume hypothetically that I'm an audience member or somebody and I have a dog. Maybe I got the dog for the wrong reason and I want to reform my relationship with my pet. Will those techniques that you just described help? The music, the time of contemplation, the quality, the fun, all that good stuff. Is there a way to make up for the lost ground if I've been a less than stellar pet owner?
There's always ways of making up for lost ground. I've done that many times in my life, and I'm glad I'm doing the attempts at making up for lost ground. If you really do want to form a deeper, more loving relationship with your pet, do those three things. But one thing you could also do is look at the pet not just as a dog or cat or another animal, but as an individual, a being that thinks, that is aware, that is completely capable of making decisions on their own. And when you start doing that, and when you start looking at the animal more closely and how they work their daily lives, you're going to find yourself appreciating them. So those who have gotten pets for the wrong reasons, and I don't know if there's ever a wrong reason. In the grand scheme of life, I might have done something what I thought was for the wrong reason, but later on I realized that animal or that decision I made ended up actually being perfect for what I needed to do and learn in this life. So maybe that animal that might have been gotten for the wrong reasons in the wrong way is going to be the perfect vehicle for that individual to become more spiritual and more aware of themselves as a spiritual being in this life.
Ah, very good point. There's a certain fatedness when two animals, including a human and a canine or a feline or whatever, cross paths, right?
Absolutely. Why this dog? Why this cat? Why now? If you look at your life and see what's going on in your life at that moment, you may be able to discover why now. It's not a coincidence. It's something much, much better when it comes to these two souls coming together in life, experiencing whatever needs to be experienced, and both becoming more than they were before because of that experience and experiencing it together. One of the things I wanted to mention, if it's okay.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm and a dog named Leaf. One of the things that really was important to me was that he tended to be, and I know sometimes this sounds a little wild, but he tended to be both physically with me and also on a deeper level in my dreams. And
right.
One of the things I had happen to me prior to the actual, I had the brain aneurysm unruptured, and of course I saw a doctor, and they recommended brain surgery in order to clip it and repair the damage and all that. And I was going through that, but I was feeling very strange because during that whole process there were other things going on, and I really felt that this may not work out. I mean, it could not work out. It may not work out. So one night I went to sleep, and I had this dream, and it was one of those kind of reality dreams where it seemed like you were actually in real life, and everything was so real and so part of the dream that was amazing to be there, and just like I was anywhere in the physical. It was a very, very realistic dream. And in this dream there was this massive line of people, and all these people were going into this massive structure that I learned represented the building of life, and inside that building all these people were going to experience all the beautiful books and libraries, all the forests and oceans, all the play, the homes, the architecture, everything that was in life was represented in that building. And all these people in line, including my wife, Linda, and all of my friends and people I knew, had tickets, and they were rushing into the building, and I looked at my hand, and I didn't have a ticket. So I went down to try to get into the line because I wanted to be part of that group that it was going to continue to experience life. And people looked at me and said, "You don't have a ticket. You don't belong anymore." They scowled, and they pushed me out of the line, and I was not able to be in the line that went into the building of life to continue my life. Well, I mean, everyone went ahead of me, and no one ever looked back. It's almost as if I had never existed. And the dream was so real, and I didn't have a ticket. I woke up in a sweat, and Leaf was still, in his hesitant mode about people, but he looked at me on my side of the bed, and he jumped up, and I was able to pet him and caress him, and it was very, very sweet that he did that because he was still not liking to be touched, but he was there for me even during those early times. And I woke up, and later in the morning, I told my wife Linda about the dream and how realistic it was and how I felt. And I held up my hand, and then I talked about not having a ticket. I just nothing in my hand. Leaf was laying down next to me on the floor, and he was listening to every word. Well, he did something he had never done before. This is something no behavior. He had done other behaviors, but he had never done this before. He went over to the table a little bit later in the morning, pushed all the papers off the little table, all the living room table, and started ripping them up into shreds of paper, into little pieces of paper. And he would gather them up in his mouth and bring them over to me and try to get me to take them from him. So I would hold the piece of paper. And when I didn't, because I wasn't thinking clearly, he would drop them at my feet, go and get some more paper and bring them to me. And I was thinking, what is he doing? Why does this man... It occurred to me later, as you well know, that he was trying to do something that he really, really knew that I needed and wanted. He was trying to deliver my ticket to me. It was the sweetest thing.
You describe some pretty vivid dream sequences in A Dog Named Leaf. Now, would you say that your work with Leaf and also with the animals of the Angel Animal Network, would you say that this work has increased your ability to perceive extrasensory types of things, or would you say that it has honed your intuition, and your ability to dream lucidly, with symbolic messages that are pertinent to your life?
Yes, it's interesting. I totally agree with that. It does help me become more aware and more adept at those aspects of my understanding of life and what I see around me and how I perceive things. The dreams are, of course, more lucid. They're much more easy to remember than they might have been in the past. And I don't know if that's because, and it probably is because I'm more aware or more appreciative of life and wanting to gather 100% of it and not just the waking life. The dream life is as important, if not more important often than the waking life when it comes to understanding the true nature of self or myself and my relationship with my family and my sweet that leaves.
Yeah, what you just said really resonated with me, especially the part about being able to remember your dream, because that's obviously where you extract the value of the dream most of the time, is in the recalling of it. No?
Yes, absolutely.
Ah,
yeah, it was fun. I mean, there's been, of course, it goes without saying, I'm sure that everyone recommends this about being conscious of dreams and waking up and making sure you write on your journal, and maybe you keep a tape recorder if you don't like to write in the middle of the night. Just something so you'll stir the memory, because we live in such a dense world. We bring it back and our brains are operating. We're drinking our cup of coffee, and the dreams dissipate really quickly without any kind of discipline on remembering them. But with that, if they're important to you, you will remember them, and you'll. And I personally have always felt that the important dreams that I want to remember, do come back, and I do end up spending time writing about them, thinking about them, doing contemplations and meditations on them, so I can understand what they might mean.
One trick that I read about that has helped me is, let's say that you're in that sort of a precognizant state, in between sleeping and wakefulness, and you're dreaming and you sort of wake up from the alarm or whatever. I read that if you want to remember the dream later, you take a piece of paper or something, ball it up, and throw it in the middle of your floor. That way you can continue to sleep. When you wake up, later, you'll look at the balled up piece of paper and have some recall. So that's a little tip that's actually helped me out quite a bit.
What a good idea. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Now, it's really interesting because the ancient Egyptians, they're famous for their cat worship, but I think it's interesting and telling that they used the dog star as an index of when to plant their crops, when the Nile was going to flood. What do you have any knowledge or anything of a dog, the canine role in ancient mythologies, or have you come across any readings in your researches about that sort of topic?
Really, I haven't done a tremendous amount of research in that area. I do know that from our research on a couple of our books, it was the Native Americans, the women that tended to bring in the pups from the wild and tame them and bring them into the family and into the tribe. And with that, there was a growing trust between man and dog, and of course, it was always the women that made it much more civilized, or much more people that would be part of the tribe, and that was something that grew and became something that we know now as our domestic dogs.
Ah, very interesting. I tell you, especially, I mean, I don't want to, lean this so heavily in favor of the canines, but what can I say? I'm a dog person myself, and I just feel a lot healthier when I interact with my animal. And what I'm interested in learning from you is, what other ways can a pet? How can the pet help me to improve my health?
Well, there's been a tremendous amount of studies out there, and again and again, it goes back to pets can help lower blood pressure. And this is, State University of New York at Buffalo that found that people with hypertension who adopted a cat or dog had lower blood pressure readings in stressful situations than those who did not adopt a dog. And this is basically a blind study. They did what they needed to do in order to come up with those statistics. And that is, when you think about it, maybe it's kind of common sense with the love and the time of the time of being able to relax and not be on display in a work environment when you're home, and having that dog or that cat just be there for you to help reduce the stress of the day. They do reduce stress. Walking, of course, is a way of soothing the nerves and offering instant relaxation. There's been other studies about how it prevents heart disease. There's even been a recent article in the Wall Street Journal on that, when people with pets, whether because of faithful companionship, it just shows that they also provide their owners with a greater psychological stability and the measure of protection from heart disease. And these are stats that tend to be pretty much irrefutable. People are looking at these as good studies and solid scientific methods. One of the things that I really do like, and a lot of these stories that come in from people that really have little hope in life, and there's very much the one thing that kept them going is their pet. It helps to fight depression. I mean, there's this thing in this society where so many of us are feeling so alone, we're not connecting with people, or people are so enmeshed in their own lives, they're not connecting with us. It's just part of our society. And I'm not sure what's going on there, but without a proactive approach to not being alone, many of the seniors and many other people, if it wasn't for their pet, they would just be completely by themselves. And the pet takes on a great meaning to them. They're bonding. It fosters security. It fosters the fact that someone does care about them. There's a love. They have to get up in the morning because they have to feed the cat. There's a lot going on with someone's life when they're just out by themselves in their apartment, and then there's another being in that apartment with them. And that being is filled with love, and the eyes are bright, and that individual has someone to look forward to each and every day because they're no longer alone.
Gives you a reason to live, a reason to keep going. Okay. Well, Alan, we're going to go ahead and take a 1-minute commercial. But in case anyone is interested in learning more about what Alan does, they can visit him over at angelanimals.net. And, of course, a dognamed.leaf.com, where you can pick up a copy of this excellent book. We'll be right back in 1 minute.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at PsychicAccess.com.
Okay, we are back with Alan Anderson from angelanimalnetwork.net. Alan, we spent the first half of the show talking about how your pet's intuition can help your health and can help with depression and blood pressure and things like that. What I'd like to do now is sort of shift over to a more commercial angle here. And I know that might sound a little selfish, but, dogs and cats, they've evolved alongside of us. They've helped us for tens of thousands of years. So let's see what they can do for us in the modern era. How can my dog help me to be a better servant to society and contribute more to society and improve my profession and career thereby?
Well, it is interesting to improve your profession. Let's say that I'm going through life and I'm just doing my thing, and I'm pretty much I'm self-centered, completely without any interest in the people and the events around me, and I'm closed down. I don't have something that maybe other people have that I don't know how to get. Well, with a dog in your life, you can't help but have an open heart. You can't help but be a vehicle or an individual that allows a flow from you to others, because you've already done it over and over and over again with your heart. You're no longer stiff, and you're no longer closed down, and you're no longer depressed. And when you are doing a profession, especially a profession when you're dealing with other people, which is pretty much all professions, they pick up on that, and they see, I don't want to be around this person. There's nothing there. There's no light in his eyes. He's just going through the motions. Well, you have a pet in your life, and there's something going on because that cat has made you do silly things, say silly things, do a whole bunch of things you have never done before because you just like getting on the floor and tumbling around with your dog, or like playing hide and seek with your cat, or doing all the things that make you a complete, total, 100% human being. And when you go to work in the morning, all of a sudden doing things that are not, quote, not to be ridiculed, it's not exactly off the limit anymore. They can see you're more open, more free with your words. You're able to just touch people and talk with people and open up your eyes and have the light and the flow and the feeling of goodwill and love for others because you've seen it over and over again and felt it over and over again with your animal. So it's not. I think that helps in the profession. People will open up to you. They will want to help you. They will want to help you with your projects. They will want to help you move forward in your career because they see someone that they really do like because you're open to them.
So if I'm understanding correctly, one avenue towards professional enrichment is going to be through the social aspect of interacting with your pet and then taking that outward into personal, professional relationships or any kind of relationship.
That is one, yes, absolutely. I do believe that people that have pets, are more fuller involved as a human being because of their connection with animals. We're living in an urban environment, and from your experiences, I'm sure that very often we just don't connect with nature anymore. We don't have the time to walk through the trails and beautiful, birds and the wildlife. We don't have the time, or we don't think we have the time to do the things that are in our best interest, which is to connect with nature on occasion. And maybe that only connection that we have with that where that force is beyond just our human intellect and our emotions and our worries and concerns is that little puppy or that dog or cat or that animal that's in your life, and that's the only connection you have. And if you close that and you don't have that, you're maybe much less than 100% human at that point. You're getting less and less and just going through the motions. It's all become a dream. It's just going through the day. You really do need to have that connection, and that dog will give that to you.
That is so true. I spent a lot of time sermonizing and griping and lecturing about how unnatural we've become. And we live in a society, of course, where we are going to start wearing our computers on our bodies and perhaps even integrating them into our bodies. And I do believe that it's endemic in modern society that we forget that we are actually hairless, bipedal apes, essentially. Primates, animals, natural creatures who were born to interact with the earth from which we came and into which we will one day be deposited. And I think that is a very, very big deal. And I know that my dog Max certainly keeps me in touch with the naturalness of life and helps to remind me that I am an organic creature and not made out of silicone and computer chips.
Not yet. It seems to be going that direction, though, doesn't it?
Well, yes, certainly. When for a lot of us, the only animal interaction we have is on Facebook. With other human beings on Facebook. You see, I read a satirical article talking about how this couple has, the perfect Facebook marriage. And it's just everything is virtual, and our pets remind us that in fact, what counts, what is real, is organic, tangible, natural.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're getting that message out there.
It's an important one, and I think the paradigm for that are the indigenous peoples. Especially you see in the westerns where the Indians, the indigenous Americans, they have names like Running Bear and Wolf That Frolics or what have you. They have names that show an awareness of the creature mind. They were very adept at cultivating that creature mind, and I think that's something that we've lost. We've lost contact with our creature mind. And, one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on the show tonight was to help enlighten our listeners as to how that creature mind can make us more effective in all areas of life, even when we're not around our pet.
Well, it is something that allows us to utilize our full potential. Why close down those aspects of self? Because you might think they're not useful, when in fact they are very useful. The idea of having the intuition or the understanding of what's happening around you, even without the mental apparatus going full force into bringing it all back into a mind state, to have the inner self really be aware and allowing that to come and become action instead of going through the filters of the brain and the emotional state, to be able to become action, but just do what you know in your heart you need to do. And that's often what makes a good, solid, spiritual, wonderful, loving individual versus someone who's dead and depressed and not looking at life as the potential in all the glories that it could be based on the fact that you're here. You're actually alive. Why not let every aspect of self, the creature mind, the psychic abilities, all those that are within you, why not allow those things to come to the surface and be all you can be? Why be so fearful and close everything down and just do what you're supposed to do and become a robot? It doesn't make any sense. And I know, we fear, all of us fear being ridiculed. All of us fear our friends at work or our friends and our co-workers and other people that we know will look at us in a way that we don't want to be looked at. We want to be looked at with respect and be, viewed in the highest regard by others. But sometimes you just have to take the risk. You have to take the chance. You have to get out there and just do what you know in your heart you want to do, which is, in fact, be yourself. And it's hard to be yourself sometimes. I mean, people don't like that. They want you to just stick to the program and be what you're expected to be.
Oh yeah, I like to joke around that all of my exes say that I should try being someone else for a change, but of course that's not the way to go, is it, Alan?
No, I don't think so. Oh God, I can only imagine what kind of story there is behind that statement you just made.
Well, changing tack here and going from pets to an animal that can't quite be perceived as a pet under any circumstances. I live in a coastal environment, and today there was a news item that there was a 16-foot great white shark off the coast of North Carolina today. Now, and of course, that leads me to sort of try to place myself in that animal's shoes and understand what its consciousness might be like. Have you ever had any experience with feral animals or wild animals, or what's your opinions on them as opposed to domesticated animals?
Well, animals in nature, whether in the ocean or in the forest, they're just living their lives like everyone else, and they're doing the best they can. And every single animal, whether they're reacting in a way that's full with instinct and hunger and fear, or whether they're reacting with curiosity and a higher level of understanding of what's going on around them, every animal is, in fact, soul, has that spiritual aspect to them. And if we just were to realize that, just because a dog bites somebody does not make that dog an evil dog. It's simply a dog that bit somebody because of whatever emotional or other aspects to the self through behavior or through fear caused that to happen. The same with animals in nature. If they attack, they're attacking for basic things that they need, whether it be food or protection or whatever it might be. I don't differentiate, and I don't think we should necessarily life into different categories when it comes to a spiritual view of what life is. I think everything is spiritual, and if we viewed it that way, we would, in my mind, have a much more fuller life ourselves, because we're seeing things from a different viewpoint and not closing that down.
Now, you raise a very good point right there, because when people think about spirituality, they tend to think of Care Bears and unicorns and things of that nature. But spirituality is a gestalt. It's a unity. It's a wholeness that encompasses the good and the bad. And my point here is that animals of all kinds, domesticated, wild, and of course human beings, we have a predatory instinct. A predatory instinct where we recognize what is to be absorbed into ourselves, and we go about doing that in fine fashion. And I think our pets can also help us in that regard in the business world, in terms of honing our predatory instincts, in the sense of, obviously not killing and eating people, but going after that sale, for example, so that you can put milk in your baby's mouth, or fulfilling your work responsibilities to the utmost so that you can get a promotion, that sort of thing. What do you think about the predatory nature of we animals?
That's absolutely true. And, it is, in fact, something that we've observed in Leaf, that he uses strategy when he wants something. He does the things that you would do possibly in sales or something in other types of professions where you are trying to achieve your goal, but you're not necessarily building a team because some of the team members don't want to be part of that, or some people are just hesitant about joining. And when we're watching Leaf, he does tend to be persistent if he wants something, but he also takes different tactics to get different results. I came into daycare one time. This is a while back. He was still pretty young, and he was in a room, and all these dogs that were normally very docile were running around and having a blast. And a couple of men came up to me and said, is that your dog? I said, yeah, that's Leaf. He said, he's really the one, he's the party planner in there. He went in there, and everyone was docile. So he threw a ball in one, got one up and running. He went over to another and got him going because he had a stick that he was going to put in front of him. And he went to another dog, and he pushed him a little bit. And finally, all these different dogs were just playing and running and having a great time, all because of the different strategies that Leaf used for each individual to get them to do what he wanted them to do, to have some fun. And these two guys were so funny. They were just watching and laughing because they saw all of his different methods of basically achieving his goal. So I guess what I learned from that was that when I want to achieve a goal, whether professional or otherwise, they're all individuals. And each individual that you want to be on your team or want to help you achieve your goal needs a different strategy in communication, in giving them the benefits and making sure the benefits are aligned with what they individually would like to have as a benefit, and then moving forward with that. So you just observe your dog. Just really look at your dog. Look at your cat. See what they do, and you can really kind of carry it over to your own life.
Very good. Well, unfortunately, Alan, this brings us to the conclusion of our interview. We've run out of time. I want to thank you for coming, and I hope you'll give Leaf a big hug and a big kiss for me.
Oh, I sure will.
His story really was an inspiration to me. I enjoyed reading about Leaf. He's very special.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great night, okay?
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers. Get access. Psychic access. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.